All right, good morning, everyone. So this is your assignment due tomorrow, Tuesday at 8 p.m. You're gonna read through this kind of intro part here and then follow the steps in order. You'll watch a really quick 2-minute video on the Harlem Renaissance time period so that you can understand the context in which the art was created. You have a quote here from W.E.B. Du Bois, a famous African-American thinker, as to what he thinks makes for such powerful struggle and beauty coming out of the African-American experience at this time. A couple leading questions to help you there. You'll fill all this out in Notability. The majority of your time will then be spent going over your chart here as to what details you find to be most important in the image that you choose, and then making an inference as to what you think the detail shows or suggests. So up here at the top, these parts are really just going to be kind of thinking pieces, right? So what things do you notice and what do you think it tells us? Then the most important part is going to be down here. You get into the analysis. If you answer the questions in the way that they're supposed to, kind of in order, you'll notice that it lines up perfectly with the rubric. So tone and mood is going to be your emotion. The overall message is very similar to rhetorical analysis, except you're looking at art. So what's kind of all the details put together? What are the details that really support the understanding of the piece? Can you explain those details? And then can you just make that connection very clear between the details and the message? And if you look up here, you'll notice, again, what is the tone, mood, or emotion? How do you know? List the details. What's the artist trying to show overall? Is it struggle? Is it celebration? And again, how do you know? Down here, which details lead you to believe this is through? So if you answer all three of these questions, you should, in essence, be able to meet the expectations of the rubric aligned down here. So what I'm going to show you is you have down below the options a series of images that you will get to choose from. Okay, there are 8 in total. You can choose any one that you wish. For today's model, I've chosen a piece that's not listed so that you can kind of get a chance to look through the analysis here. So this piece is entitled Into Bondage. So right away, I know bondage is a reference to kind of being tied up or subdued in some way. My assumption, given the context clues of the time period, is that this has something to do with slavery, okay, with African Americans being actually taken. So I'm going to look now at the image. The first things that point out to me, I see these handcuffs. I see them again and again in these men. I also see a line here to suggest a series of men. I also see a boat. So is that a slave ship? That's one of my initial inferences. There's also this focal point here of this kind of sun or some sort of light source. And then all this around it is kind of coming out of it. So there's some sort of light. I see the same thing up here with this star. The North Star is my guess. And again, you have this beam of light and it's kind of coming through this guy's eyes right here. He's obviously the focal point. You have these jungle elements over here, all the leaves and things kind of coming up into the frame. And then again, you have this kind of pale blue, almost shadow type of coloring going on in the figures themselves. And then kind of the lightness in the back. So it starts dark over here and then it gets lighter up here in the corners. So what I would do if this were my piece and I wanted to kind of go and identify some of the areas, I'm going to go back to that chart and I'm going to attempt to fill in my thinking. So the artist is Aaron Douglas. I'm going to fill that out here. And the piece is called Into Bondage. Okay. Detail 1 that I noticed is kind of I'm going to say the light colors, the star, and that kind of sun shape in the left corner. I think it suggests something about kind of seeking out truth or some sort of safety. Maybe there's a belief that that going to this new world will be, that there's some hope that life will be better. Again, just my guess. Another detail that really popped out to me was the chains and the cuffs around their hands, the line of men, obviously being, enslaved, kind of walking toward the ship. What do I think it suggests? It suggests this kind of continuous trade. I shouldn't say trade. That's not really, they didn't get anything out of it. The continuous movement of slavery. My assumption is that they are in Africa, given the jungle elements, and they are being taken to European countries of sorts, which was the ships. Another detail I want to talk about is the darker colors in the figures, and then also in the jungle kind of leaves and such in the right corner. So I think it has something to do with this idea of being kind of primitive, being of the land. You know, the leaves and such kind of really come into the actual painting itself. And they're leaving for this, you know, they're kind of coming with this dark, this shadow, this question mark of what life is going to be like coming out of that. So as I think about the piece overall, I think that the tone or the mood is actually conflicted. There's kind of a dual mood of both pain and suffering. And I would also argue with the star and some of the lighter colors that there's also some hope. So I think perhaps there's kind of both. I think the emotion is both hopeful and also painful. And again, the details I would go back to would be these up here, the light colors, and then the darker colors. So the contrast between those two. The suffering also kind of comes out in the chains and the cuffs. Overall, I think the artist is trying to show more struggle than celebration. I think that the struggle of slavery, of being forced out of your home, the life that you've known, and forced into another life that you don't really know. And then do you remain hopeful? So that man's kind of standing up, that central figure, hopeful in the in humanity, in the good of people, that something good will come out of this ultimate forced move from their home. The details that I would talk about, again, I would go back to the chains and the cuffs, the ship, some of the colors, etc. So what you'll notice is that a lot of the details from above will end up being the details that you speak to here. So you could say something to the effect of the combo of the enslaved elements and the central figure looking to the light star. Okay, I don't know why my pen just stopped working there. Give me 1 second. Central figure looking to the light. There we go. To the star. Suggests hope, maybe in the struggle. Okay, that's it. So if you look down to the rubric, these are the elements that you want to be looking for. I'm going to go back to the piece just one more time so that you can kind of see where those details came from. So again, you have these dark colors in the down here, up here in the right that we spoke of, the central figure kind of here in the middle, the star, the lightness. All of these different elements allow you to kind of put together the context that you don't necessarily have with words, with the images that are available to you. So that's it. You're now going to go back to your the original piece. I'll wipe all this out and you're going to have a chance to pull that in Notability and pick any of these images you'd like to complete that same process. Email me